show. So we have a special guest. Matter of fact, we got more than one guest that's going to be on the show today, and we're going to have some deep conversations about that, and then just who our guests are. You know what we do in the Iron Sharpening Iron, so we're going to have some fun with this also. So if you give me a second, we'll get the guests up on the stage, and we can move forward. So give me 1 second so I can get them up on the stage. Give me, yeah, we're had to do some moving around, so yeah. So give me, it's coming up. All right. Let's get him up on the stage. Boom. So all right, we got my man here, Mr. Delbert Pope. How you doing, sir? How you doing today?
I'm well, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well, doing well. Super excited about having you on the Iron Sharpening Iron show with me today, and I thank you for being a guest on the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So let me tell you before we even get started, you are now live. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Facebook. We'll cut some of this out and make short videos of it and put it on Instagram and TikTok when the show is over. But and that's what we try to do. That's what we're all about. And we'll go throughout the show and we'll talk about talk as me and you are talking. We'll take a break and recognize the people that might be in the chat. I see they're starting to come in now, and once they start coming into the chat, we'll recognize them and this, make sure that we greet them. So I see Miss Kimberly Pope is in the house right now.
Yeah, that's my pig.
Okay, all right. So Kimberly Pope is there. I see Rudy is in the house. Niecy Jackson is there. So Niecy Jackson is that's my aunt. So I'll just give you that. And today's her birthday. So happy birthday to
happy
her.
birthday.
So happy birthday, Niecy Jackson. Just want to make sure that we shout that out. We got B Better Than Nightbot in the house, and we thank B for being there. And then everyone else that's in there, if you leave a chat or leave something in the chat, we'll know that you're there, and then we'll recognize you when we can. So, Delbert, thank you again for being on the show. But introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Yes, sir. So my name's Delbert Pope, and I am a resident of the great state of West Virginia. Originally from Maryland. I grew up in Seat Pleasant, Maryland, the home of Kevin Durant. Yes, indeed. But what do? I pastor a church in Berryville, Virginia, and I've been pastoring there for 7 years. And then outside of church, I work for an organization connected to West Virginia University through the Center for Excellence in Disabilities. I work with a program called the Regional Transition Navigator Services. And what we do is we support youth between ages 14 to 25. We help them get connected to services that will help them, those who are out of foster care, coming out of foster care with no permanency plan. We get them connected to services that will help them get, become more independent. If they need help with schooling, employment, those kinds of things, we get them connected to those kinds of services. And then because we're connected to the Center for Excellence in Disabilities, we have a strong emphasis on youth who are struggling with substance use disorder, those that may have emotional issues. There's a program at the CED that focuses on traumatic brain injury. And so we get those kinds of referrals, and we get all of those youth connected to those services. Prior to being with the Regional Transition Navigator Services, I spent 10 years with the court-appointed Special Advocate Program, which is a national program in the state of West Virginia. We're recognized as CASA, C-A-S-A, Court-Appointed Special Advocate. But throughout the nation, either the program will be a CASA program or a Guardian Ad Litem program. And I spent 10 years doing that work. And I'm so grateful because it allowed me to engage in the world of foster care with children from birth to age 18. And so with this new work that I'm doing, it allows me to participate with them on the other side of that.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm grateful for that opportunity and that experience.
No, thank you for the introduction. That was awesome, and you got a lot of stuff I got to feed off of right there. So, I mean, you're in West Virginia, so I mean that's one thing definitely in common. There was a time I was in that state of West Virginia,
Yeah.
but then you said Sea Pleasant, so I too grew up in that area. So that's another thing. But and pastor the church, so
Yeah.
we rocking right here. But
Yes.
but with all of that, the part of you. One being a former CASA worker and now they said the regional transition navigator services that you're with
Yes.
now. So so that's a huge to hear that there's a program for when they're starting to age out and helping them get to the next step. And
Yes.
that was something that I don't know. I didn't know that they had a such thing. I didn't know that there was a program for that. Is that a new program or is that something that was going on for years?
That's a great question. So this program is we're only in I think we're headed into our 5th year.
Mm.
So when they brought me on, we were right at, I believe they were closing out year 2. So the program, quite honestly, is still in a stage of infancy. And though we are connected somewhat to, to the West Virginia um, Department of Human Services, somewhat, we're not bound to their protocols and regulations, and so we have the opportunity with this program to write the book on what we do.
Oh, okay. Well, that's cool. That's cool. So having your experiences as a CASA worker will definitely help with this program because like I say, now it's unfortunate to even say that you're following the kid all the way through, but the fact that some kids don't, they age out.
Yes.
So, and that's a known fact. We know that to be a fact. So some kids
Yes.
age out, and now knowing that there is a program that's set aside for a kid that may age out, that okay, it's not just okay, you turn 18, you're out on the street, what you gonna do? It's now excuse me, let us see what we can do to help you, and that's huge. So definitely applauding you for that. That's a great program, really. I'm glad to hear that. Right. Now, is that a national program or like I know you say in West Virginia, but is that
Right now, I am of the understanding, because I don't supervise the program, but I'm of the understanding that there are similar programs in the country. I'm not sure how many. Um, Ours is unique to West Virginia,
okay?
and so we have a great team that we're literally a multidisciplinary team. We've got folks that specialize in housing, folks that specialize in different areas. And so because of my experience with CASA, what I brought to the program was something that they were missing, and that was a connection to the courts.
Mm,
Right. So we have the ability now to participate in MDTs, to be in hearings regularly. I'm regularly in hearings now.
mm,
Of course, in doing the work with CASA, I was in abuse and neglect cases. Now on this side of the work, I am focused more on juvenile services and juvenile delinquency. This has also opened up an opportunity for me to participate in the juvenile drug court.
mm.
In fact, it's not even called that anymore. We call it youth treatment court now.
Got you.
But
Okay.
it's an opportunity. It is an opportunity for us to engage with youth who are struggling, locally with substance use, having challenges in school, and all of that. And so I sit on another multidisciplinary team to be able to help guide, direct, and foster and promulgate some hope for these kids. That they can be successful, they can they can, rid themselves of those, of those detrimental habits, and they can become productive and useful, and very, very possibly become people who are peer mentors to their friends.
That's cool. I mean, that's excellent. Really, the whole program that you're describing is excellent, and to be able to work on their behalf, even after, I know where CASA cuts off is this where this new program is picking up, and
Yes,
that's
yes,
huge. That is huge.
yes.
So that we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about the CASA program. So if you can
Okay,
explain
very good.
some of that, and we do got a guest that's going to come up with us on that time. So let's take a quick break. We'll recognize the people that's in the comment section, and then we'll bring our guests on. All right. All right.
Very
So
good.
be back in 1 second, everybody. 1 second.
Get ready for the ultimate live experience. Join us on stage where music, poetry, and comedy collide in a night to remember. Top musicians, spoken word artists, and comedians come together for a unique and unforgettable show. From soulful melodies to side-splitting jokes, this jam-packed event has it all. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride as we bring you the best of the best in this one-of-a-kind performance. Are you ready for the next We Be Jammin' Live?
All right, welcome back to the Iron Sharpening Iron Show. Again, I'm your man, Big Jack. You got my guest, Delbert Pope, on the line with me or on the stage with me. And we're getting ready to get a little deeper into the CASA program, which Delbert explained to us was a national program. So we're going to learn a little bit more about that. So before we do get started on that, Delbert, we're going to just recognize some of the people that's out there. We already talked about Niecy Jackson when she's there, and she hit that hashtag Grow and Glow Together. That's our community. So we grow and glow together. B drop that. So the We Be Jamming Live. That's the show we do the last Saturday of every month. We put musicians on the stage, poets on the stage, comedians on the stage, and it's going to be May 31st, 9 p.m. Eastern time. So if you got time, come out, check us out. We have a fun time out there. Excuse me. Els Endeavor is in the house. Hello, Els. How you doing? Captain Johnson's in the house. What's up? He said, hello, everyone. Sharon Jackson's there. And I say, hey, Jack. Sharon Jackson, that's my mom. So she always pops in. So I appreciate that. We got Kimberly Pope. Rudy is in the house. And then no one else is, I guess, left for, and B, of course, B holding it down, dropping those links. So Better Than Night by B. So thank you. So let me bring Melody up on the stage. So we'll get her up on the stage. All right, Melody, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. So before we get any deeper into the conversation on CASA worker and the CASA program, can you give us a little introduction of who you are?
Sure. I also live in West Virginia, like Dell. I live in Berkeley Springs, West Virginia, and I joined CASA around the time of the pandemic, and I started out as a volunteer. Somebody shared the story about needing more CASA volunteers. And at the time, I think I worked 2 jobs, and my boss looked at me and said, no, you don't have time. And I signed up anyway, took the course. Actually, Dell was one of the facilitators for the course. It was awesome. Learned so much from Dell. And then I became a staff member. So now I'm a volunteer supervisor with CASA, and I oversee the advocates who are working directly with the cases.
All right. All right, and it's nice meeting you, and thank you for being up here, and thank you for your service. I mean, that's another service that sometimes gets overlooked. A lot of people don't realize that that's out there. And I'm definitely going to talk about the guitars on the background, so because just going to throw that in there when we get a chance. So we're going to have you explain some of that. So at CASA, if I'm not mistaken, it's court appointed special advocate, or
Correct.
no court appointed special advocate. Okay. And I know, Delbert, you made a comment about guardian ad litem. So can you explain having a CASA special advocate or having a guardian? Is there a difference? Or either one wants to explain that?
Go ahead, Del.
Okay, so guardian ad litem is a term that is used in court that literally means to speak on the behalf of. Okay. And so the guardian ad litem program are individuals who speak on the behalf of children who otherwise would not have a voice in court. Now, in the state of West Virginia, our guardian ad litems are attorneys. And so the court-appointed special advocate program comes alongside the attorney as another voice for the child. And I'll pass to Melody and let her tell you about what the court-appointed special advocate does in court alongside the guardian ad litem, who is the attorney.
Okay, Melody.
So the court-appointed special advocates, these are volunteers who are trained to be the voice of the children. And so a lot of times what you have is you have an overburdened CPS worker. You have overburdened attorneys, but a CASA volunteer is assigned a case. So they have the dedication and the time to really focus on just that individual case. And we tell people that they're basically the eyes and the ears for the judge. And so we write court reports, and they actually go to the judge. They actually go to all the parties, but it really details what's happening in that child's life, whether it's at school, whether it's in the, their foster home, whatever is taking place. If there's hardships for the child, if the child hasn't seen their parents and they're asking, hey, when can I see my mom? When can I see my dad? So the advocates really are the voice of the children, and then they make recommendations for a safe and loving and permanent home.
Oh, that's cool. Now, when I was as a foster parent, so I was a foster parent, and I remember the program. I did, and I didn't know that, say, a CASA worker could be a guardian ad litem, because I only knew them as attorneys. So I thank you, Delbert, for explaining that it's just being on behalf of. So it's really speaking on behalf. So technically, even a parent could be a guardian in that sense. Yes. So if you're a foster parent and you're speaking on behalf of the child, you too are in that guardian ad litem. So thank you. See, I learned something all the time. So and with that, do you not get overwhelmed? Now, I guess I'm more thinking of how many can a CASA worker have at that time? How many kids could you have as a CASA worker?
Well, I have certain CASAs who volunteer, and I had one that had like 7 children in one case. So sometimes you have the same mom and same dad, but sometimes you have mom to this one, this one, this one, and dad to this one, this one, this one. And so there's a lot of parties involved trying to schedule sibling visits and making sure that the kids are seeing each other. But this particular family, the foster took in all 7 kids. So it was amazing. But I also have a number of volunteers who take on multiple cases. So some cases we only have 1 child, other cases we could have 3, and so on and so forth. So I think the most that I have right now, I have 1 person that is working 4 cases, but this person is also retired. So it, offers a little bit more flexibility for her.
Wow. So I know one of the things I experienced, and I guess as a foster parent, is when you have the kid and the case is over. So say they go back to their permanent home, or they go back to their birth parents or whatever. You don't hear anything else about them. You don't learn it. Is that the same for a CASA worker, or do you get to see what's going on with the case or anything else?
Once reunification happens, then yeah, it's kind of the case is essentially closed. We are looking at ways to kind of extend things. We're looking at a program called permanency services, so that it'll have like a 6-month period where after reunification takes place, there's eyes still on the kids. A lot of times what we have happen is, there are so many things that the parents have to do as part of their improvement period. And so they're doing this, they're checking boxes, going along well because everybody's watching them. And then when the case closes, that's when things kind of start to go back to the way they were. So with this permanency services program, what our goal will be is to kind of keep eyes on them a little bit longer, making sure that they have the support system and the resources. Because again, when the case closes, it's like everybody that was there is now gone. Drug testing is no longer required. And so just like when somebody's on probation or parole, when you're on probation or parole, you're on your best behavior. But when you're not having anybody check on you, then you're like, I might be able to do this. So this way, the case will stay open a little bit longer and that support system will be there. So, and it's also great for the kids. So we're staying in touch with the kids, watching that transition from whether it's foster care or a kinship placement back into the parents' home. So,
all right. So I guess what motivates you to want to be a CASA worker? Is it I will go with Delbert first and then come to you, Melody. But what was your motivation to want to step up like this? Because it's a volunteer service, correct? At first,
it is.
Okay.
So I'm just going to be upfront and candid. I had just graduated and was in need of a job.
Gotcha.
and the placement coordinator told me about this position that she was aware of. She reached out to the organization, which was CASA, told them, and they were in a hiring process, and they were down to their final 2 candidates. And she said, "Don't hire anyone. I've got somebody that you've got to meet."
Oh, wow.
And so I interviewed with them, and I think they hired me the next week. And so, to be quite honest with you, I believe that this was destiny at work, if you will, because this literally placed me in a position to be able to use my gifts, my talents, my skills, my abilities in a way that engaged directly with an affected part of the community that often is neglected and underserved. And that's where my passion is. That's where my heart is. Of course, I just said that I pastor a church. And so that's literally where my heart is. Right. And so this was an opportunity for me to do, quite honestly, the pastoral work in a very secular kind of way.
Right.
Yeah. So it was, it was an amazing opportunity, gave me an opportunity not only to engage with the community, in a sense of being involved in court, but the number of individuals that I had an opportunity to train with, to teach them how to do this work, to be able to connect in an area of similar passion. It was again, I believe it was destiny for me to do that kind of work.
Oh, wow. Right. Hey, thank you again. So Melody, how was it the same?
So it's a little different for me. Actually, I worked in healthcare for over 20 years.
Okay.
And so I actually worked part-time for a drug prevention agency. My daughter struggled with addiction in high school, and I was one of those parents that was like, I would never have to worry about that because my daughter was the co-captain of the basketball team. She played softball, volleyball. She was, a good kid. And I found out very quickly that was actually not the case. And She was struggling long before I even knew. So when I started working with Morgan County Partnership, which is the drug prevention agency, and we work closely with youth, um, that's when at a coalition breakfast, I heard the CASA story. And I thought, wow, I really want to check this out, especially kids that are affected by substance use, because many of our cases initiate through substance use.
Mm.
It's kind of like what came first, the chicken or the egg.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's mental health, sometimes it's substance use. But so essentially, that was where my passion kind of got ignited. And so when I started as a volunteer, I was like, I'm in love with this work. I took a huge pay cut to go to CASA from healthcare. And I really did. I just fell in love with the work with the kids. And it kind of gave me a different angle because I had started a nonprofit for people in recovery. And so my compassion for that was just, like I wanted to see everybody get help, and I would do whatever I could do to get people into rehab and recovery. And so then when this opportunity came along, I was like, well, not only can I help the kids, but maybe I can help the parents, and we'll say a lot, when the kids do well, the parents do well. Or when the parents do well, the kids do well. Sorry, I got that backwards.
No.
But really, I think mine was kind of destiny too. People will say when something bad happens to you, would you go back? Would you change it? And my daughter's in recovery now, and she is doing so well. And she often will say, I wouldn't change anything, even though it was really hard. She said, so many people have been helped as a result of what I went through. And so, I've had conversations with respondent parents, and we talk about the challenges with drugs. And while I haven't been in their shoes directly, I can tell them as a mom, I've been on that roller coaster that was taking twists and turns that I had no control over. So I know how substance use can affect a family firsthand. And I believe in recovery. I believe that children should be with their parents if those parents are able to be successful. So with that, that's kind of how I went that direction, and then just, hit the ground running in so many different directions. But Dell was, instrumental. When I first started, his wisdom was just outstanding. Like he really walked the walk and talk the talk. He really, really was inspirational for me. And so I stayed largely because Dell really had a heart for the children and gave such wonderful wisdom. Like I said, he, really, really encouraged us along the way. And so I feel like I know so much more because of his direction too.
Right. Okay. So, and thank you for that, and thank you for sharing the story with your daughter and what she went through, because I think that probably, like I say, in the destiny world, but that was that gave you that spark, and like we say, not just help mine, but help others as well. That's, like I said, she's not the only one that went down that road, and
Right.
that's huge. So yeah, thank you. Excuse me. So how many is normally on a like a CASA team? So I mean, what's the normal base? Is it
Like how
10?
many volunteers?
How many volunteers? Yes.
So right now I probably have 10, but I'm in the small rural area of Berkeley Springs. So I know our counterparts in Berkeley and Jefferson County that are also part of our team have a lot more, probably 15 to 20. So that's why I think I have a lot of people that take multiple cases, because our numbers are smaller. We would love to get more volunteers. It's just a small community, and so it's a challenge.
So Billy, I just want to jump in here. What I've encountered with attending national CASA conferences is that in more urbanized areas, those numbers are going to increase in terms of the number of cases, the number of volunteers, and then how those case assignments roll out. I recall one program that was highlighted in South Carolina, and their program was a guardian ad litem program, not necessarily Court Appointed Special Advocate, same family. But this particular program talked about how many cases they had assigned to them. They had like 400, 500 something cases assigned to just their program. And out in California, the Los Angeles CASA program talked about 3,000 cases assigned to their program. And so it's gonna, it's going to vary from state to state. The good thing is that CASA, the CASA program, the CASA model, the national CASA model is present in the 48 contiguous United States, I believe in Puerto Rico, and Mel, please help me if they are somewhere else internationally, but I want to say that there's someplace else internationally that the CASA program exists.
Yeah, we don't have a CASA program in every county in West Virginia either. So that's the other piece of the puzzle is you have to have, we have a state CASA, but you don't have, every county that serves. So there are some voids in our own state.
So now, is it automatic that once a child goes, say, through a court system, that they get a CASA worker? Is that an automatic thing?
No, it's not automatic. Now, we do have certain judges who will automatically assign CASA, and then if we have the availability with a volunteer, then we can put them on the case essentially. But typically, you kind of look at the petition and you see, would this benefit from having a CASA? In Morgan County, where I'm at, the judge will assign CASA to every case. And we do try to keep every case served, just again, because we're rural and it's, a smaller community. But our Berkeley County and Jefferson County, it's completely different because there's so many cases and just not enough volunteers.
Wow. So what help do you have? Do you have each other, I guess, to lean on to support one another? Because I can only imagine the stories that you go through and the things that you hear to try to take that home or have to take that home. It's like that could be overwhelming. So do y'all support one another? Is that how you work?
We do, and we have what's called a chat and chew once a month, where our advocates can get together and just talk about things that they're going through with their cases. We have a volunteer administrative assistant that loads our petitions into our database. And he recently sent a message to the team and said, I know you guys are used to seeing this, but this last one that I just entered was really, really hard for me. And so we do rely on each other, especially in times where you're trying to wrap your head around some things, and the only other people that can understand that are the people that have actually been through this same experience. And it dealt with a sexual assault of a biological parent and his daughter. And, that's just, it really is. It really makes you just like, holy cow, how important is our job? That sometimes we have to protect kids from their parents.
Right. No, 100%. And you're absolutely correct. I see Kamaria Jackson's in the chat, and she said, I never heard of CASA until I became a foster parent. It doesn't seem like it's well known. And again, it wasn't. I was too. I'm that's my wife. So I didn't know that there was a such thing, because you hear all the time. You hear Child Protective Services, DHHS. And I want to try to say if we say those letters. So what's that? Department of Health and Human Services. Yeah. So make sure we get the letters because it's so many. But then when we became foster parents, and then it was like, okay, I'm the child's CASA worker, and I'm like, what? So someone else got to come look at my house. So somebody else I got to talk to, someone else we got to explain, and they're down. Okay, and we as foster parents, we had some. I would say it was some challenging cases, and sometimes it's like, it's hard to believe that someone would do that. It was hard to believe that a child would go through that. And so Again, I applaud what you do because I know that it has to be difficult because you're hearing all of these cases. You're sitting in court all day, and then when and it's like nothing changed.
Mhm.
That's the nightmare part of it. It's like, okay, they're giving this person a break. This was the person who did whatever, and they're saying, okay, we're gonna let you take this child back home. Like what? And okay, and you don't get to say anything. You there, but you do get to say something because you're speaking up for the child. So, but that's the bonus to that part. So,
Well, that's the
I've seen
one thing. That's
right.
the one thing I really like about CASA is we interview and kind of get information from the foster family as well. So I've always included that in my reports. So, not just how well the child is doing where they're living, but any concerns that you have. If the child gave you information that maybe wasn't even disclosed to the court. But yeah, I'm with you. Sometimes I sit in court and I'll be honest with you. I'm like, why are we even going down this road? Because it doesn't look like there's light at the end of the tunnel at times.
Right.
There are times when I go in, I'm like, there's no way this case is going to be successful. And sometimes I'm proven wrong. But it really is hard to kind of take that step back and say, okay, is this fixable? But the challenge that I always see is the generational trauma that's passed down. So the person that's going through what they're going through, that respondent parent, probably had an upbringing similar. And so I'll tell people all the time, if you were raised Amish, what are you going to grow up and be? You're most likely going to be Amish because that's what you know, right? And so the same thing is true with these kids. They're just become a product of their environment, and that's normal for them. And so then you have the second set of kids kind of involved in the system. And so it would be great to be able to break that generational curse,
Right.
So that it doesn't continue. So that's it. It is totally challenging, though.
Oh yeah,
Can I
go ahead.
add to that?
Yeah, go ahead. Tim.
So and I'm sure you can attest to this, Big Jack. I was going to call you Billy. I'm sure you and your wife can attest to this. The fact that the CASA report that goes to the judge carries so much weight with the court. Quite honestly, in my 10-year experience with CASA, I have seen cases turn on a CASA report.
Right.
The judges take great they place great weight on the words that CASA speaks regarding child, family, and future.
No, and you're right. We had a CASA worker and I would say phenomenal. She was one of the I'll say best we could ever. And she's gonna be a guest in a couple of weeks on the show, so we'll have her up there. Yeah. So
that's great.
But so yes, we did. So going through the program, but again, we saw so much, and it gets frustrating and it gets tiresome because a lot of people don't realize there's a process. And your voice means a lot, but you're speaking on the behalf of the child. And that was one of the things. And my wife was way better than I was with it, but she was definitely taking all the notes and having, everything that we noted it. They woke up this way, they went to sleep that way. They, every time the phone ring, they screaming or yelling or whatever. And we saw a lot of stuff, and we was able to again advocate for the child on, because some of them had a lot of different medications they were on that they just probably didn't need that medication. It's like, does anyone ever check them for this or that? And so we was, like I say, everyone that walked in our house, it was like that was our child. It wasn't ever the, they're just here for a couple of days or whatever. Yeah, they might have been, but they're going to get the rural treatment for the couple of days that they were here. And so again, we did that as foster parents. But then, like I say, you're sitting in the court and you're listening to the case, and you're like, I can't believe we're getting ready to go down this road. And then it's like, as I see you in the comments, sometimes common sense is not common sense. You would think it would be easy, but I know it is a process. So is the goal to try to get them back? I mean, I just don't know. Is the goal trying to get them back with kinship or back with the parents? Is that the
Yeah.
original goal?
So really, the goal is reunification. That really is the goal, but it's only the goal until it's no longer safe. And so we attended a conference, a national conference, and there were children who had aged out, and they were asked some questions like, "What's one thing you wish would have happened when you were involved in your case as a child?" And a lot of them said that they still wanted to be with their parents. No matter how messed up things got, they still wanted to be with their parents. And the other thing that they said was they wish people were more honest with them about what was going on. And I think sometimes that's a challenge because you don't know what age it is a child really ready to hear. We've had parents who have tested positive for their drug screens, and they'll tell their kids, "No, I touched a doorknob. I didn't use drugs." That they're just trying to trick us. And then so when the kids have when they're in placement, they're acting out because they're thinking that the court system is out to get their mom and dad, and that their mom and dad didn't use drugs, that they touched a doorknob, and that's how they became positive. And so at what age do you really just be honest with the kids? And sometimes we think 12 years old might be the age, but I can tell you 8 and 9-year-olds really know what's going on more than we give them credit for. And so it is really, really a challenge because you want to be honest with the kids, but you don't want to set them up to be hurtful. But you want them to know that they're the realistic opportunity for their parents to improve. It may not be the outcome that they want. But to answer your question, the goal is reunification. And sometimes when the case first starts out, especially with newer CASAs, we have to kind of remind them that the goal is reunification. I have one CASA volunteer who's been a CASA, I think, for 11 years, and he had a case. And I'm going to be honest, right from the get-go, I was like, this doesn't look good for reunification. But we can't say that, right? We have to give them a chance.
Right.
And so his first court report, he recommended termination. And I said, you can't recommend termination on your first court report. You have to give him a chance. And he said, all right, I'll listen to you, but just know that this is how I feel. And I said, I completely understand. This is a really sad situation. I totally get where you're coming from, but we have to give him a chance. Did it end up in termination? Yes. But we couldn't start out from the get-go like, don't even give them a chance. And then there are aggravated circumstances too, where if the case has like a sexual component, typically we're not advocating for reunification in those cases. So
right. No, I understand that. So, and one of the big things that when you made a comment about an 8-year-old having a lot more insight. One of the things that I observed during this whole process, especially with fostering, that every time a child is placed in a home, they age probably 5 to 7 years because that home, they have to adjust. They have to learn the new rules. They have to learn the new people, the this and that. You're talking to a 5-year-old, but it's like talking to a 12-year-old. It's like, wow, wait a minute, because they aged. It's like they had to adjust. So when you say an 8-year-old, if I ask you, well, they're 8 years old, but how many times they've been placed? Oh, 2. Oh, yeah. You're talking to a 15-year-old. They know more about the system than you know right now. So and they're just waiting for the shoe to drop or whatever. And it's like they're not going to do anything. They know the ins and outs. Plus, you know what your house is like before the CASA workers show up. You know what your house is like before the caseworkers show up. All of a sudden, we're going to clean the house. We're going to get everything straight in order because casework coming. So, so we know the game is being played. It's a game, and the kids are caught up in it too because you don't really want to tell on your parents. You don't want to get your parents in trouble.
That's right.
But at the same time, it is for us when we were foster parents, and for you as CASA workers, and now the regional transition navigator services to read between the lines and see what's not being said, and being that voice to not, I see what they're saying here, but this is what I hear what they're saying, but this is what I'm seeing, and the two don't act. The math is not mathing, so, and that's one of the things we have to pay attention to. So we're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we got my man Walt Talk's going to come up on with us. And Melody, you okay? You can hang for a little while?
Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
I appreciate it. Delbert, to hang with me. All right, so we're going to come back on the Iron Sharpening Iron show, and we'll be right back. And this time we'll bring Walt Talk up on the stage. So give me 1 second, and we'll be right back.
Get ready for the ultimate live experience. Join us on stage where music, poetry, and comedy collide in a night to remember. Top musicians, spoken word artists, and comedians come together for a unique and unforgettable show. From soulful melodies to side-splitting jokes, this jam-packed event has it all. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride as we bring you the best of the best in this one-of-a-kind performance. Are you ready for the next We Be Jammin' Live?
All right, welcome back to the Iron Sharpening Iron show. Man, Big Jack, and we got Melody Stotler with us from CASA out of the Eastern Panhandle, and Delbert Pope with the Regional Transition Navigator Service. And we've been talking about CASA program, the program itself, the some of the ins and outs, the support systems as far as for the CASA workers, the volunteers that speak out on behalf of the kids. And wait a minute, we got one that's getting ready to come up on the stage. So let's get my man Walt up here. Give me 1 second. Here we go. All right, what's up, my man Walt? What's going on, sir?
How you doing, sir? Can you hear me okay?
Yep, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay. Melody, Delbert, how you doing? Nice to meet you both.
Well, good to meet you, sir.
I'm sitting here, man. My head is spinning just listening to this, and I can only imagine how frustrating it can be. Rewarding but frustrating, just to see the cycle and how things go. And Melody, you made a very good point. And when basically hurt people, right? So yeah, I mean, so they started off with a bad start. I mean, so
Yeah.
you guys are incredible. I see it's a state-run program, but you say that there's a national standard, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
So yeah, and I don't know what the answers can be. I just look at this as a first responder. I remember how many times we'll walk into a situation and it's like you just feel like you got to tell somebody. You have to say something to someone because I've seen situations where grandma's on the bed, with bed sores, kids running around unkept, and the dog is in the house, and you call Adult Protective Services, Child Protective Services, and the Humane Society, and the dog is the only one who leaves the house sometimes, and he's glad to go, and that's really yeah, that's a real thing. So I mean, there's definitely a place in heaven for both of you and everyone that does what you do. So
yeah,
thanks for sharing.
That was a good point that you made there, Walt, and a lot of people don't understand or don't realize. And that was something I learned when I was in foster, that pets or animals had rights before kids had
Yes.
rights. And that was one of the things that we picked up on or we learned. And I was like, wow, it's hard to
Yes.
believe that. So
Yeah.
it's good to have a program like this where
Yes.
there's people that are standing by, and one is a volunteer service. So that's even, in
Yes.
itself, that you're volunteer to put yourself through this day in and day out, because it's a full-time job.
I can imagine.
Even though, because it's like it's not a 9 to 5, because the child is in that house 24
Right.
hours a day. So you don't know, and I'm gonna ask you that. And Walt, I know you're here, and I appreciate you being here. So Walt, talk, just to throw this for Melody and Delbert. He's my my co-host in a sense for the after show, and he's more
Too
like
kind.
EF Hutton. When Walt talks,
No.
people listen. So
No.
so we go EF Hutton him on this one. But I'm gonna ask you: do you give out your personal information to a child when you're their worker, or
No, you can't.
No, talk
You
about
can't.
them. Yeah.
Oh, them. I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah.
Oh, you do. Okay.
And once, particularly with the work that I'm doing now, on the older side of foster care, kids aging out, I have opportunity to not necessarily give out my personal information, but they absolutely have access to my business information anytime they need me.
Great.
Yes. Yeah. Wow.
Great.
That's cool. Because like I said, I can imagine. Like I said, you got to have your own time. You got to have your family time. You got to have time that you can separate. But at the same time, the kids, they might be, it could be 2:00 in the morning, something pop off.
Yes.
Super Bowl Sunday, something's popping
Yeah.
off. Payday, something's popping off.
Yeah.
So it's like you always know. And that's how we learned as foster parents. That those are the times something was going to happen.
Yes.
You stand next to your phone, get ready, because you're going to get that call.
Yes.
As a foster parent, now I know as a CASA worker is one thing, but as a foster parent, it's very similar, where you might have an empty house, and all of a sudden, you're getting that call, and so I spent many a nights where I had to run through the Walmart while my wife was running to the hospital or the emergency room because the kid needs to be checked out, and we need to get a crib or whatever. So that was the back and forth that we had to go through. And so I remember walking one of my cases where I'm walking through, and it's like, well, we got 3. Like, woo, 3. Ooh, how we gonna figure this one out? But we did. We got it worked out. So, but it's so again, I applaud you, and I thank you. Not want to turn the tables too much, but Walt, I know you might have heard if you was listening in. Del was from C Pleasant.
Oh, so I missed the first 5 minutes, man. I apologize. Maybe 8 minutes. So you're from C Pleasant, Maryland?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, that's my home.
Okay, me too. What high school did you come out of, if you don't mind me asking?
So here's the story.
Okay.
The year I was leaving junior high school, I was supposed to go to Bladensburg.
With that guy.
Gone, and I wound up going all the way out to Duval.
Oh, wow.
Okay, my man. All right. Yeah.
All right.
Wow. So yeah, what a small world, man. What a small
definitely.
world.
And then look, and again, I told her I was going to ask about it, but Melody got guitars or something on the back of the wall. So you got to explain a little bit to me on that. So are you the musician?
No, my husband is. He's actually a worship leader at our church, and plays trumpet, guitar, drums, everything. And he has a beautiful voice.
All right.
So are you his manager? Do we book him through you, or how does that go?
Yeah, just let me know.
No, because look, we do the We Be Jamming live show the last Saturday of the month, and what that is, we just bring different artists on and try to bring them on and let them share their talents with the world. And so I'm looking at that.
That's what got me. He is very talented. That's how he got me.
That's how you guys.
I was like, wow, I'm going to marry this guy.
Oh, wow. Musicians always have it made. Yeah, musicians and singers. Yeah.
So that's what's up. That's what's up. So now if a person wanted to be a CASA worker, or they wanted to volunteer, and they come to a meeting or however you do this, what advice would you give them up front? Would you tell them run? Don't do it. Run.
No, I wouldn't tell them to run. I think the thing that I have learned over the years is we are just one piece to the puzzle. So I think a lot of people have the mindset that they want to fix everything. And unfortunately, we just can't. They want to be the person with the cape on their back, come in and save the kids. And sometimes when the case goes down a different road, it's really hard for a CASA worker to step back and accept how things are going in the case, because they're seeing all of these challenges that the children are going through. And then obviously reunification is an important part of it. So I think the biggest thing that I would say to somebody who's thinking about becoming a CASA is it is very, very rewarding, but it does not come without stress, and it does not come without worry. There are a lot of times where at night you start to think about, well, what if? I wish I could bring them all home. We have kids that their CASA worker is the only person on their contact list at a group home.
Mhm.
Other kids are lining up to call their mom or their aunt, their grandma. And then we have some kids who are lining up. Their person is their CASA worker. That's the only person outside of their group home that they have a connection with. So like I said, it can be super rewarding, but you have limits. And you also have to make sure that you take care of yourself. We just held a training on secondary traumatic stress. Some people call it compassion fatigue, burnout, whatever the case may be, but it really is a thing. You can start to go down a really sad road if you don't take time for yourself. And so that's another important thing that we really recommend. And that's why we have the Chat and Choose. We have a book club. So we'll read a book together and we'll talk about things. And a lot of them are case related. There's a book called 3 Little Words. It was about a young girl that grew up in foster care. And it was an amazing book. And so it kind of lets you take a step back and be able to discuss the challenges that kids go through, whether it's foster care. And I think the biggest one too is kinship placement. I don't think people realize how much more important a CASA is in these kinship placements. I had a great grandmother, one of my first cases, I was raising 3 of her great grandkids, a great grandmother, and you imagine you're talking about getting the call in the middle of the night and having to run to Walmart. But can you imagine being in your 80s taking care of a baby? I know I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So those are just different things that you're going to encounter. And sometimes the CASA is the support for that family member. They really they can't get a hold of other people in the case because they're the system's overburdened. And so somebody just reaching out and saying, hey, I'm down to my last pack of diapers and I don't have any. We'll make sure you get diapers. We'll make sure you have that formula. So very rewarding, but it does not come without, stress.
I have a two-part question, if I may. First of all, how old are they when they age out of the system?
Well, that's a great question. So technically 18.
Okay.
They can sign themselves back in if they want to go to college, and there's different things and that's one of the Dell's areas of expertise. And so, but technically 18. And what's really challenging is, these kids that are in group homes. And so as soon as they turn 18, they've been being told what to do their entire life. And so you give them the opportunity and say, hey, you can get benefits and you can go to college. And they're like, nope, nobody's telling me what to do anymore. I'm 18 now. But Del, if you want to just touch on that program that's available, that would be great.
So this is where collaboration becomes essential.
There you go.
The program that I work with has the ability to attach ourselves to these youth who age out, and we can stay connected to them until they turn 26 years old.
Great.
Um,
Great.
And what we have the ability to do is, if they are at risk of homelessness, we have the ability to connect them to a program that will get them housing for 3 years at no cost.
There you go.
And that gives them an opportunity to find employment. And then if they need employment, we have an employment liaison who can help them with that. And this gives them an opportunity to, to develop those life skills. We stay attached in that way to help them develop those life skills so that they can maintain their independence and hopefully improve their circumstances and situations, so that once our hands are off, they can live on their own, and be productive. And again, this is why I say this is where collaboration becomes that much more important, because it is simply a means of handoff.
Yes.
We get to get involved in the lives of these young people when they turn 14 years old. We have an opportunity to stay with them for 11 years.
Great.
Where the system here in West Virginia, where the system will drop them immediately at their 18th birthday.
Yes.
We have the opportunity to stay engaged with them. And so that's why I say the collaboration is so important, because where CASA has to say, I got to let you go by our standards and protocols, here's RTNS now who can pick up the ball and can walk with you the rest of the way.
That's good.
Yeah, and we also have a Fostering Futures program that we've implemented at CASA. Yes. And so once a month, these kids get together. It gives them the support, knowing that there are other people who are going through the same thing that they are going through. But they're covering different things with these kids, things that we take for granted that, our parents would have shown us growing up.
Yes.
Just the financial piece and knowing how to do your taxes, filling out a job application. Yes. So that happens once a month. And then there's an actual additional program that they do where it's called a Fostering Futures Summit. And so that happens once a year, and the kids go to Shepherd College and they get lots of hands-on different things. And they play fun games too. So, but it gives them that camaraderie with people who are going through the same things that they're going through.
All right. So, and thank you for sharing, both of y'all, on that. So Patricia White puts in a comment, could potential Medicaid cuts affect these programs? So, and I was going to ask something similar. Are the programs restricted to just the state? So say I'm 22 years old. I'm in West Virginia. I'm under your program, Delbert, but I want to move to Maryland. I want to move. Can I still stay with the program, or am I restricted? And then I guess Patricia White's the Medicaid program, is that affecting your programs?
So great questions. Let me take your question first. For our program, for RTNS, because we are funded through West Virginia University, we can only deal with clients who are in state. So if you move out of state, we have to turn you loose. Now, we will do our best to get you connected to those similar services in the state that you want to move to. And furthermore, we will also say to you that if you come back into the state, we don't drop you. We keep your name in our database. And if you should move back into West Virginia, our services are still available to you. Now, as it relates to Medicaid cuts, we just had our quarterly meeting this past Friday. This actually came up in our meeting. And our overarching program, the Center for Excellence in Disabilities, at least in the state of West Virginia, they are looking at this and what measures can be taken to help, I guess, subsidize in those spaces where Medicaid is cut. Nothing hard and fast, nothing, nothing that is active right now, but it's something that we're investigating, looking at, and trying to learn how to make up those differences.
Okay. Because that was one of the reasons I think I threw that out there, because I know when we were foster parents living in the Eastern Panhandle, we had to get permission just to leave West Virginia to go into Maryland, but you couldn't get anywhere without going. Matter of fact, to get from West Virginia to West Virginia, you had to go through Maryland sometimes. So we had to get permission. So that was one of the things where a lot of people don't know that, especially if you're living on those border or like the DMV. If you're out of the DMV, and I want to, I want to go to Northern Virginia, I want to take them to DC, and you living in Maryland, you had to get permissions. You couldn't just take their kid out of their jurisdiction and move them to another one, even for a field trip or a day trip or a picnic. So you had to get those permissions. So that's where the CASA worker also helped us, because we might not have been able to get to the caseworker, but the CASA worker was able to reach out to the caseworker faster, because they might have seen them in court or wherever where we didn't see them, like, because it's a lot. But they seen each other so much that they were able to hit that. Not to say hit that button, but it's like, all right, I'll get your answer quicker, and so it helped a lot. So yeah, but that's where I was asking you, Deborah, about the crossing the lines if they decided they want to, because you could be living in West Virginia but get a job in DC, and it's like, are you still under the program? And I'm just wondering. But thanks on that. Walt, you said you had a two-part?
Yeah, so the second part of that, to Delbert's point, you have a kid, let's just say kids coming from a, for lack of a better word, more stable household, just regular kids growing up. Can you trust an 18-year-old to do the right thing even under the best of circumstances? You know what I mean? So you take a kid that's under exactly. So you take a kid under that kind of pressure. Now, my last 3 years in the fire service, I was in recruiting, and I live in the District of Columbia. I live in DC. So a kid that's in foster care that ages out, just like military and DC residents, they get a 10-point preference on the exam, which kind of helps them steady up, and then also just little things. I'm having an orientation, and I'm telling the kids, like, you need to come business casual, right? I mean, business casual doesn't mean you're fancy as jeans. So, hey, just wear your uniform, wear your school uniform if you need to. That's fine. Uniform pants and a clean shirt, that's fine. But these things, because I guess we're in a general same age group here, generationally, things that we learned that we had to go, you get the clipboard, you go to the job interview that you didn't qualify for, but you had your father's tie on and the shirt was too big. And at least you got to sit there and fill it out, and you got to shake somebody's hand and look them in the eye. And even though you're not going to get the job because you're sitting there with a grown person that's probably, is really needs the job, and you just your first time out applying for this job because your mother and father said you need to go get the job, but at least you could walk away from there knowing something. Well, now everybody's filling everything out online, so they never get that feedback. So it's important when you do interact with them, at least when I did, I would like just have these conversations, because it's impossible to know what you don't know. And I was just amazed at some of the stories and some of the things people had to go through that, that we just take for granted every day. We just take for granted every day. So, hey man, I that's great to hear that you guys, when they age out, that they're not gone. And that's great, because those life skills are huge. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
So now, and good points, Walt, on that. So Delbert and Melody saying both, do you have to apply for those other programs, or is it just an automatic transition from you're going to age out? So now let's put you into it. Because I know you say you can pick them up at 14, but are you looking for special cases at 14, or is it all cases falling?
So with RTNS, we get all of our clients by referral. And so it is a simple process. We actually have an online referral form people just go to our website, click that submit button, and fill out a form, an electronic form. It comes directly to our inbox. We have a 6-member team. Anybody on our team can field that particular referral. What we try to do is based on regions, because our team is literally located all over the state. And so based on regions, we try to pick up those referrals that come in. So primarily, my greatest focus is on referrals that show up in the eastern panhandle of the state. So that's Jefferson, that's Berkeley County, that's Morgan County, that's Hampshire, sometimes up into Hardy County, like that. But sometimes I may be able to attach to to a client that's in the lower part of the state, down in Charleston or maybe Bluefield, someplace like that. The only challenge that I have with that is that I'm not aware of all of the services that are in that part of the state. So our coverage is statewide, but our referrals is what drives our clientele.
Okay. All right. So I want to just check and make sure we hit some of the people that's down in the chat. And we did reach out when they had the question, but Tracy's local learnings is here. Desi is here. Hello. Brian Drums is here. Thank you, Patricia White. Thank you, Patricia. Aunt Patricia, that's my aunt that's out there asking questions. That's cool. B is still dropping links. I think she even dropped a link to your church, Delbert. She's so, and then Walt Talk, even though he don't have an actual channel, but he is
Not
the
even
man, the
close.
myth, and the legend.
Not
So
even
it's all
close.
good. So so now I want to be a CASA worker. So what's the steps? What do I need to do to be
There you go.
not even just a CASA worker, or if I want to volunteer for the RTNS? Yeah, so there we go. So what's the steps that I need to take?
So for our CASA program, of course, we're located in the Eastern Panhandle, West Virginia. We have a volunteer application online, but we do a background check, we do an interview, fingerprints, the whole 9 yards. But you can join any CASA program since it's nationwide, and so you can just look at the National CASA website and get more information there. But I would say most of them are pretty similar with the application, background check, fingerprints, so on and so forth. And then it's then there's a training, and right now we are in the middle of a training, so we do 2 evenings a week for a month. And so we meet from 5:30 to 8 p.m. and are training our newest group of volunteers. And then they get sworn in, and then we start sending them petitions and saying, hey, does this case look like something you would be interested in? So.
Oh, so they have the option?
Yeah. So I usually send people at least 2 petitions and say, here's 2 different cases, take a look. Some people have different age group preferences. Some people like the older teenage group, and then some people like the littler kids. So,
right.
And then, we just give them the option. We definitely don't want anybody to be triggered if something has happened in their own past.
Right.
That's something that they want to steer clear of. That's something we take into consideration. But I like to give people the option, and they get to read a little bit about the age group and what the kids have been through, and then where they're currently placed. So,
very good.
So the agency refers people to you guys.
mm-hmm.
The person so this child has a team. So tell me what the team looks like. Give me these different agencies that's working on this thing, because you need mental health, you need health care, maybe just something as easy as dental, right?
Mm-hmm.
So tell me, the kids, give me this team that you guys are working with to make all of these things happen.
So the court team is typically made up of the CPS worker, the Child Protective Services worker.
Mm-hmm.
The child has an attorney, the guardian ad litem in our cases, and then each of the parents have their own attorney, and then of course the judge that oversees. Then we also have mental health professionals. We have some that are specific that will take children who are in court appointed, or I'm sorry, juvenile abuse and neglect cases. So we have those players. We have family therapy. We have programs like Starting Points who offer parenting classes, life skill classes. Remember, I was talking about the generational trauma that's passed down. So if you've never had, you don't know how to parent because you were never parented. So that's what these skills teach people, you know, the parenting skills, the life skills. But there's so many players that are involved. Parents usually have a psychological exam. Parents are drug testing 3 times a week. So we have what's called day report centers who not only provide the drug screenings, but they also provide them ongoing therapy, whether it's peer support, and so on and so forth. So there are a lot of players. The challenge is that these parents have a lot of boxes to check off. So if they were involved in a domestic violence case, they have to take what's called a community alternatives to violence program. It's 32 weeks. And so you got to get when you first start out with your improvement goal, you got to hit the ground running because you got a lot of boxes to check. But the awesome thing, and this is what I tell parents all the time, I know it doesn't look like it right now, but this is like a Willy Wonka golden ticket. Because all of these services are going to be provided to you for free. And so this is everything that you need so that you can be a successful parent for your child. So I think that's the biggest challenge, is getting them to understand that this is to benefit them. It's not a punishment.
I have to ask you this question. Based on what you just said, that is, like you said, a golden ticket, right?
Yeah.
Do you get resistance from outside agencies, other agencies? Is it political? With people, because think about it, you're helping people holistically. I mean, giving them the whole situation, right? And I sometimes hear people talk against their best interests, like you don't understand that you're getting this thing that you're speaking against. So how is that playing out for you guys right now? Just, I got to ask you that question.
Go.
So in my experience, and I've been away from the abuse and neglect cases for about 4 years now. But in my experience over 10 years, what I found was that there was a very territorial nature within that multidisciplinary treatment team, which was unfortunate because while we were all striving for the best interest of the child, programmatic protocols and standards might dictate that what one entity determined was best, another entity, based on their protocols, based on their standards, it would be against what that was. And so you would sometimes be playing a tug of war in these MDT meetings. You know, again, everybody's purpose was the best interest of this child, but it was all driven by what our standards and protocols are. Here we go, based on what the bottom line would be.
So I used to have this conversation with people, and it would look like I had two heads, because here's the thing. Your base client, or the person you're providing service to, lives in West Virginia, between a certain age group, right? So the teachers, the social workers, everyone that's working this case, we are all fishing from the same pond. We are all trying to help the same person. So why are we getting territorial about that? And I mean, and then you guys have to deal with the fact you bring volunteers in. So now, you know, you got to fight that fight on top of, well, I'm this, that, and the other. I'm this big muckety muck. I mean, it's just, to me, it's just crazy. And the people who suffer are the people that we say we're trying to help. So, I know, first of all, I appreciate you answering that question, but people don't really think that deep when they you just hear a sound bite or you see clickbait.
Right.
People don't think like that deep into it. Like, oh, what's the big deal? I mean, they got everything they want. I mean, like, what? I mean, like, are you kidding me? So, it's just, it's crazy. And then you go into a meeting with other agencies, man. And like you said, sometimes if you're not an outspoken person, you'll just sit there and let it go. And then if you are an outspoken person, I'm guessing you two guys would be like, wait a minute. Then you'll come off as the bad guy. So
sometimes
there you go. Yeah,
so that's another thing where and Walt, that I didn't hear in Melody when she was explaining all the pieces. There's a foster parent in there. There's a person who's now holding the child. Like, I got the child. I'm sitting in that meeting and watching all this go around this table.
You're like,
I'm like, that kid's at my house.
Right.
The kid's at my house right now. So, and that's where a lot of times it's like you're watching this back and forth and you're hearing the discussion and all, and you're like, the person that y'all talking about is sitting at our house.
Right now.
And like you say, if you got a 32-week program, well, I think they need to go through the program. Like, so now I need to adjust my house for 32 weeks because the court's not going to let them go back until this person gets themselves together. So you start, as a foster parent, you start thinking in that thing. And they're too volunteers. You're a volunteer as well. Even if the state say we're going to give you a stipend, that is not for you. It's not for your work. It's for, and it doesn't cover a lot. It really doesn't cover a lot. So, yeah.
This is what people don't really realize. And Melody, you said, and Delbert, you did too, what has to happen for that person to become a volunteer. So I'm being held to the same standards as you being held to. I'm just not getting any money. So as a spectator, I'm looking at you guys as like, you are God sent, because other folks are walking away from here with, and I'm not trying to just, put anybody down, but let's understand, you are signing up for this truly out of the goodness of your heart. So it's not even like you're taking a check home out of this. So this is, it's rewarding for you guys, and I get it. But to have somebody just basically dismiss you out of hand because you're not an employee of the state, that's just crazy to me. But I know it happens.
We have that happen a lot.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes it's really important to kind of remind people who CASA volunteers are.
Right.
We have retired law enforcement officers. We have retired attorneys, nurses, teachers. And I think they have this mindset, like the volunteer shouldn't even have an opinion. Like, what knowledge do they have? Well, in addition to what they did for a career, they also do this training. And we also require annual trainings to stay as a CASA. But you're right. A lot of people look at it as, well, you're just a volunteer.
Yeah. And to add to that, Melanie, that's a very good point. The other part to that is you talk to the child.
Right.
Yeah.
I've heard from the child itself. I've seen the child. That's the big thing. Because when you go into court, the child's not there. They don't go to court.
Right.
They sit down as the lawyers that's out there, and they're arguing the case. But you wouldn't expose the kid to all of that back and forth.
Right.
But at the same time, I've talked to the child. So for you to dismiss what I have to say, is like, I'm with this person right now. And people that we didn't add into the list, you got to take them to a primary care physician. You, like you said, the dentist. The teachers, if they're at school age, they need to go to school. So you're doing all of this as a foster parent or even a CASA worker if they don't have someone stepping in to get them all the things that this child still needs so that they could continue to function, even though their home is dysfunctioning at this time. We need the kid to continue to function in the right direction. And and hopefully what Melody and Delbert, was able to do is even check the foster parents, because you can have a situation where the foster parent ain't a good fit for the kid and they have to now move that kid out of there. So they got to make that recommendation, because as far as a caseworker, I found a place for him to sleep. I'm good. My hands, I'm great. Like, whoa, the CASA worker, like, that's not a good fit. We need to get them out of there. So those are the things that also happens in this process.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. Go ahead, Melody. I'm sorry. After
I
you.
was just going to say, we have some that we have our kinship placements, and sometimes that can be a good thing, and sometimes it's a challenging thing. Sometimes you have kinship placements who allow the parents full access. You know, they're the whole reason that this child's been removed is because there's concerns. And then you have other kinship placements who it really is a challenge for them to get along with their own kids. And so it doesn't stop when the case closes. These families are damaged. And, you know, so I've had people say recently, you know, I've given up my life for my grandkids, and my daughter doesn't appreciate that.
Right.
And it really is. And you're talking about as a foster parent sitting at the table and all of these people are making decisions. It's the same thing with these kinship placements. You know, they're being expected to run them to the dentist, to the doctor, to sports, you know, trying to keep their kids involved in their sporting activities. And it does feel defeating, I'm sure, at times, because it's like, hey, what about me?
Oh, yeah.
But yet,
and I got a full-time job. I got a 9-to-5 I need to go to. I said, kind of go to my job.
Right.
So now daycare comes in the picture. We got to find daycare for you know, and then some of the programs that we went through, we were talking about, like there's a respite program and other programs that's available, but it's a lot that goes in. But the big thing is it really is for the kid. It's the best interest of the kid. And we had to get in our mindset. I know I did, was that a lot of kids are in here for something they had nothing to do with. They just happened to be at the house and when it popped off and whatever happened, and now they're caught in the middle, you know, and it doesn't matter what age they are. You know, it doesn't, you know, a newborn could be in the system just as fast as a 14-year-old or whatever. We had cases, you know, because you taking them to the doctors to get the physical, and a doctor might catch something and say, hey, this kid got this and that, shaking baby or whatever you want to throw in there. And it's like, that changes the game. That's like, whoa, they can't go back here. They can't go back to this person, you know? And those are the things that, and then, so when, and I'm gonna throw this in there, and y'all can expound. And I know we're getting ready to wrap up the show, but false cases or false allegations false accusations, where someone is saying that this person is doing just to get at them. How much did that throw extra work at you as workers, that someone made a false claim and it now falling and y'all getting involved?
Well, for me, we don't get involved until there's an actual petition that's been filed. But what I will tell you is that sometimes there are reports made and the CPS worker doesn't find it as a substantiated event. And so it's kind of sad sometimes to see that CPS reports have been made 11 times before something became a case.
Wow.
So we almost see the opposite, where cases or challenges are being reported and the cases are not being substantiated until it becomes really, really bad. And at that point, it's like, oh, this is bad. This is really bad. And then you see all of these unsubstantiated cases previously where people were trying to call and trying to report their concerns, and they were like, well, it's not really a case.
And then once it happens, or something happens where it goes to the extreme, and then everybody's in damage mode. I mean, damage control mode, right?
Well, how did this happen? Well, you closed the case 11 times before. It was actually substantiated. So
wow. Yeah, and that's definitely that. Yeah. So I'm super happy that both of y'all was on the stage with me today and was able to discuss this and all. I'm more I guess now that Delbert, you moved on, and Melody, you're still in the CASA world, but y'all both now merged. You just took it to another level. You just expanded it out some. So that's really good to hear. So I guess more, I know we talked about what advice would you give, but I want to, if both of y'all could share and just what have you gotten out of this? How has this helped you as a person? from the beginning to now? Is it at where you are, where when you started with the program and now where are you at as far as mindset?
Well,
Mel, you can take it.
I was going to say, for me, I really feel like the volunteers that work with me are just amazing. And I really tried to provide the kudos that they deserve, because I know that it's a thankless job. And that's where I see the heart and the passion. And even sometimes with their frustration, when things don't go the way that they want them to go, or you have an attorney that's kind of challenging on a MDT, a multidisciplinary team meeting. And so I really my focus here lately has just been on singing the praise of the volunteers. It's such a thankless job. And I really, really also want to be there for the kinship placements, for the foster parents, anything that we can do that will lighten the load for them. Because I know that, especially the kinship placements, people didn't sign up for this. And I'm sure people who've signed up to be a foster parent didn't know what they were signing up for, didn't know with everything that it came with. But I also want to be an encourager for parents too. I don't want them to lose hope. I see so many parents who have potential to be great parents and to bounce back. And probably part of that is from my compassion with seeing my own daughter with her recovery, knowing the road that she went down and seeing where she's at now. I never thought I would see the day. I was always waiting for the other shoe to drop. And so I know that recovery is possible. And I know a lot of our cases are drug related. And so for me, I just want people to know that that someone believes in them, no matter where they're at, that they, as a person, they're fixable. So
I got you. Delbert, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I am grateful for exposure to the other side of this work. Because my experience with CASA was such that we were out of the lives of these children when they turned 18. And even with our deepest concern for them, our protocols, kind of dictated that, that we couldn't re-engage with them. I mean, there's opportunity outside of that, not as a council worker. There's opportunity to engage with them on a personal level. But I'm grateful for this experience that I have now on this side, because it gives me the chance to be able to say to them, listen, you can improve your life going forward. And I want to be one of those individuals in your life that helps you to become that. I may not be everything that you need, but I can be one person who is steady and constant for you as you walk this journey toward becoming who you want to be.
Wow. Yeah. So, and I'm gonna share something, Walt, real quick with you. But the Aquatic News Network is out there, and he's been dropping some good comments. I put them up on the screens. So yeah, and then drunken chef barbecue is in the house now. So thank you for being here. And that goes Patricia White. She's saying it's a great conversation. So I know Melody was saying it's an MDT, correct?
Yes.
And say it again. I'm sorry.
Multidisciplinary team meeting.
Yeah, right. Okay. So the MDT, you go into the MDT meeting. Now, how does it, especially when you're in a smaller area, there's only 3 or 4 lawyers, right? So say the mother has a lawyer, the father has a lawyer, and the child has a lawyer. Okay. And then the next case, that father's lawyer is now the child's lawyer, the mother's lawyer is now the father's lawyer, and the child lawyer is. So you being there like, who am I now? And that's how they talk at this meeting. Like, who am I? I don't know. Am I the guardian? No, you're the guardian, because it depends on who the kid is and how they shuffle them up, because it's just a small world. So you're there as the foster parent or the CASA worker, like the CASA worker knows better because they work with them more. But when you're the foster parent, you're like, If y'all don't know what's going on, how the heck we know what's going on? Do y'all know? And the caseworker walking in with 20 cases, you just one of the 20 kids I got. So it can get real confusing on who's who, what part of this child's life are you representing, and you almost sometimes forget who your child was. You'll start confusing the cases with this case and that case. So it's super important that the CASA worker or the RTNS worker and the foster care parent are all
together
on their game, because of the fact that it can get real confusing. And if you don't speak up, a lot of the lawyers, they get confused on what role they're playing. They don't even, we had one case where the judge got sick, and they're like, wait a minute, now the judge went out, lawyers moved all over, lawyer got pregnant. It was all over the place. They were like, what the heck is going on? But with the people didn't have the paperwork. I mean, it was wild. So, and as I said, I know my wife was much better than me, because she had a book. Every time we walked in, whatever kid we had, she had a book for them and had all the paperwork, and it helped. It really did help.
Yeah. That's the good thing about, I know we're ending, but I know that's the good thing about CASAs is their reports are kind of storybook.
Yes.
And so if you do have a new attorney taking over, a new judge coming in, it kind of gives you the life of the case, what's been happening. So
yeah.
So documentation beats conversation any day.
Yeah.
100%,
Yes.
100%. Yeah. So it's really good. It's really good having you, Delbert, on the stage with me, and Melody. Thank you for coming here. I've had a good time learning. I mean, really learning about the whole process. Now, the one thing, and I'm gonna mention this, and we're gonna roll. This is going to be the last one I got to throw at you, because when a parent is, because I know you said there's a lot of services that's provided or the parent can take, but they're not required to take any of these. Are they required? Because I know as a foster parent, I went through way more training than I did as a parent. So, and that's one of the things. It was like, to be a foster parent, I had to go through all these classes. I had to get a background check. I had to do my credit rate. They checked my credit. They checked my house. I had to make sure I had hot water and a fire extinguisher and fire detectors, all of this stuff to be the foster parent. But to be a parent, just have sex. I mean, really, let's be honest. That was it. Okay.
Yes.
So how y'all feel about that? I'm just asking on this.
Well, that improvement period that I talked about, nobody has to do it, but if they want reunification and that's their goal, then yes, they have to do it. We've even had some parents that one parent does well, the other parent doesn't. And so you say, well, if you want your kids back, you're going to have to sever your relationship. And some parents will say, no, I'd rather be with my boyfriend than
be with this,
my kids. So yes, there is a long list that they have to complete in order to work through reunification. And it's not an overnight process. A lot of times it starts out with visits, phone calls, that sort of thing. And then you work back up towards reunification, but they have to complete that checklist if they want to get their children back.
Wow. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the answer.
Yes.
So, Delbert, now I'm talking to Pastor Delbert Pope in here. In the chat is River of Life Ministries, and that's Pastor Carla from River of Life Ministries, and she is from the DMV as well. She came out of PG County. Matter of fact, I think she said Duval. What Duval and Roosevelt?
Yes.
Was the high school she went to. So
Yes.
So just throwing that out there. That's another way of networking, seeing that River of Life Ministry. I think they're in Tampa, Florida now, but she does an online ministry through Tampa, but at the same time, she's out of that DMV area as well. So yeah. But I thank y'all both for being guests on the Iron Sharpening Iron Show. I had a really good time with you, learning more and more. And Walt, you got anything before we close?
I'd just like to say thank you both for what you do. And I am looking forward to the day that you come back with the next Delbert or Melody, the person that has decided, hey, this program helped me, and this is what I want to do with my life. So I'm looking forward to that. And hopefully it won't be too long. And Big Jack, you may have 4,000, you may have 40,000 by then. But I'm looking forward to that, because there's no way that someone that you are helping is not going to be touched and want to go in that direction. So, and Delbert, especially for you, because like you said, you get to see them the after show, after the program. And I'm sure you and Melody keep in touch, and I'm sure your Rolodexes are full, and you're getting summer jobs and placing people and doing things that again, that not even in your job description. So thank you both for that. I mean, that's a great, to give you time, that's just a great thing. So thank you both for that. I really appreciate you educating me on how the system works. So thank you.
Thank you.
And Delbert, again, thank you, Melody. Thank you for being on the Iron Sharpening Iron show. And again, my hat's off to you for all the work that you put in. Yes. So I only can say yes and thank you. Thank you for your service for sure. So this is end of the Iron Sharpening Iron show. Had a good time. We got my man Walt Talk, Delbert Pope, Melody Stotler. And we're going to have to get your husband on, Melody, so let him know we're going to be coming at them to get him on the We Be Jamming live show. So, but until next time, we're going to ask you all to stay blessed and peace, and we'll talk to you later. See you, Wednesday. All right. So until then, we'll talk to you later. All right. Bye-bye.
All right.